First yield to my colleague from California, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who has been a leader on these issues, and I yield her as much time as she may consume.
Thank you very much. First, let me thank Congressman McGovern for your tireless leadership and for hosting this special order today. For many years, you have been raising the level of awareness with regard to the responsibilities of Congress, our duties as it relates to war making, as well as the impact of these wars, these tragic wars, on our brave men and women. And so thank you for once again coming forward with now a privileged resolution that directs the President to remove all United States military forces stationed in Iraq within 30 days or by the end of the year. This is a very reasonable resolution. It is very consistent with what I believe the American people, and we know based on what the American people have said over and over and over again, they're war weary, and Mr. McGovern has really given us an opportunity to vote the views of the American people. This resolution exempts, of course, troops necessary for the security of United States diplomatic posts and personnel. We're all familiar with the reports coming out of Iraq about the horrific sectarian violence taking place. We hear many of the same voices who champion the unnecessary war in Iraq, once again beating the drum for a renewed war in Iraq today. So we must not let history repeat itself. We must remember history. We must not be dragged back into a war in Iraq. This must be rejected. Many of my colleagues agree, and I want to remind us that over 100 members of Congress now from both parties, we've signed a letter, Congressman McGovern, myself, many, Scott Riggle from Virginia. We are calling for the President to come to Congress for a debate and authorization before any military escalation on Iraq. And last month, during the consideration of the 2015 Defense Appropriations Bill, over 150 bipartisan members supported our amendment that would prohibit funds from being used to conduct combat operations in Iraq. There's no military solution in Iraq. This is a sectarian war with long-standing roots that were flamed when we invaded Iraq in 2003. Any lasting solution must be political and take into account all sides. The change that Iraq needs must come from Iraqis. They must reject violence in favor of a peaceful democracy that represents everyone and respects the rights of all citizens. The future of Iraq is in the hands of the Iraqi people. Our job is to continue to promote regional and international engagement, recognition of human rights and women's rights and political rights. Although these actions only through these actions can Iraq and, of course, the United States and the rest of the world begin supporting a process of reconciliation and help the Iraqis secure long-term national stability. Mr. Speaker, after more than a decade of war, thousands of American lives, and billions of dollars, the American people are rightfully war weary. The American people are looking for Congress to act. We must heed their call and bring this privileged resolution to the House floor for an immediate up and down or down vote. As our President told the American people in May, United States military action cannot be the only or even primary component of our leadership in every instance. This is one of those instances. Before we put our brave servicemen and women in harm's way again, Congress should carry out its constitutional responsibilities and vote on whether or not to get militarily involved in Iraq. But we must vote on this resolution immediately, because I think this would give the American people a clear understanding of what this administration and Congress intends to do, and that is remove all military forces stationed in Iraq. And so I want to thank, again, Congressman McGovern for his leadership, for bringing this forward. It's time that we have a clear up or down vote on this. I want to thank Congressman Jones for co-sponsoring this. And also, finally, conclude by saying that sooner or later, we've got to go back and repeal the authorization for use of military force, which has become a blank check for this war this past decade. It sets the stage for perpetual war. We need to repeal it. The American people deserve a vote. on this resolution, and that they deserve a vote on repealing this authorization. So thank you again for your leadership, and let's